Yeah, welcome everybody to another episode of the Pick Six Podcast. You can also find us, we're proud partners of the Underdog Podcast Network. You can also find us on Podcast One. You can also find us on YouTube. Brad's making me laugh as he's waving to the camera right there. Oh, Shooter McGavern.
Shooter. What's up, buddy?
Yep. That reminds me, everybody, if you're listening to this on Underdog Podcast, that's great. We love that. Please subscribe and all that stuff. That's great. Thanks for landing on our program. If you haven't subscribe to us on YouTube, please do so. We're at youtube.com/theunderdog. And, Brad and I have two podcasts. We splice up our Get Paid podcast for game previews. Those are like 2 to 3 minute, just chats about the game against the spread, daily fantasy insight, kind of start sit kind of stuff. Then Brad and I, from our week there, we have a couple days of reflection, and then we pick our top 6 bets. I go through my top 6 daily fantasy budget plays, hence the name Pick Six. So, yeah, check us out there. Give us a subscription. But today is all about making money. Brad and I have selected our 6 bets. But before we get in there, Brad, did you want to talk about anything? Again, we're recording this on Thursday, so there's no insight about the Rams versus Seattle games. But maybe you want to give a little bit of your thoughts about tonight, because I still don't know who the hell's going to win that game.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. It's an excellent Thursday night matchup.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to watching Russell Wilson. I think he's just phenomenal, man. I think he's as good as it gets.
Dude,
and, and he doesn't get much love by way of all-time talk, and I think he deserves to, and I don't understand what the deal is. I think it's like for everything anyone's ever said good about Cam Newton, they should take it back and give it over to Russell Wilson. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm with you, man. I don't get it either, and as you and I say on this, because neither one of us like the Seahawks.
I hope they go 0-16.
Yeah, I know.
I don't care.
It's like I hope they and the Patriots go 0-16, but they make it so damn hard for an objective, especially because we like to make money. So, we can't just bet against the Seahawks, and we can't just bet against the Patriots every week because they cover all the time. Man, he's doing some crazy stuff. When I talked to you earlier this week, Brad, I had yet to watch the Seahawks Arizona game. I actually watched it earlier today. Holy crap, man, they're shredding. And when Chris Carson doesn't fumble the ball, they're really, really tough to stop. If they don't shoot themselves in the foot, they're hard to stop, man. I like the Seahawks team. The Rams, I'm still I picked the Rams. You picked the Seahawks, and the line is Rams +2 last I checked.
I could see the Rams bouncing back, and I think Goff may be the type of quarterback that he's willing to be in a shootout, and he will raise himself to the competition. We've seen that before, so he's not afraid of it.
Yeah, I don't know what to think about the matchup. I really don't, because in recent years, the Rams have kind of owned the Seahawks in the last 2 years, and they've had the number, and it's never really been that big of a contest. But it seems like the NFL has reacted, and they're kind of copycatting Bill Belichick's Super Bowl kind of strategy. And it seems like the Rams. There's all this talk, Brad, about Todd Gurley. It's annoying me, really. I don't think anybody's talking enough about Sean McVay. He's getting out coached.
Yes, right. They've fallen off a little bit, and I don't know if that's too much of a surprise, man. I mean, at some point, the lack of experience, I think, catches up with you. That doesn't mean you can't be good at something, as a younger guy or fresh out the gate. But I think eventually you go up against people that just maybe know a little bit more than you, and it shows.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay.
Yeah, I think that, with respect to McVay, another thing that, people aren't talking about, first of all, the offensive line is a lot worse than they were last year.
There's that.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like that's something you can clean up, though, schematically, and I think he will. But what people aren't remembering is Matt LaFleur got picked off the staff to be the offensive coordinator of Tennessee and now the head coach of Green Bay. You had, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but I believe the offensive coordinator for the Rams right now was either the offensive coordinator or quarterback guy for the Rams. Then you have Cincinnati, Zach Taylor was the guy with the Rams. So he's been losing his offensive staff for years. It's similar, actually, to Carolina, Rivera. Yeah, because I was about to say Riveron. That's the officiating guy. Ron Rivera, Riverboat Ron, he lost his defensive staff 2 or 3 years in a row, and they struggled. Well, now they have some continuity, and they're getting back. But you can't just lose your offensive staff 2 years in a row, your entire offensive staff, and then not feel the hurt. And they didn't really, I feel like they were promoting from within there. They weren't really going outside the organization and bringing in other opinions. I just think maybe Sean McVay, he needs to go out and get maybe, I don't know. I'm not saying like an older, more experienced guy, but I'm just saying like another opinion in the room. Maybe somebody that, maybe like a hardcore like offensive line coach or something like that. Just like, oh well, what if we did this? What if we did that? I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's what Seattle did with what's his face, Schottenheimer, who I was critical of, but he's gotten that team going because he's gotten a run game to support Russell Wilson. Maybe they just need somebody else in there to get that running game back on track so that Goff doesn't have to throw 68 times.
I know. That's a bad sign, man. That's a really bad sign of what's going on. And very ridiculous, man. Very ridiculous. And there's no reason why they should lose to Tampa at home or give up. What did they give up?
It was over 50, wasn't it?
50-something, right?
50,
I mean, that's inexcusable.
Yeah, I filmed. I don't know if I released it yet on Underdog TV, but I said, any game where Jared Goff throws 68 times and Todd Gurley runs the ball 5 times, 16 yards and a touchdown, you're not doing your job. And I'm sorry, right. I do not believe. I'm not buying into this thing. I think he had like an MCL sprain last year. I'm not buying into this being a career-ending injury. Nick Wright, Colin Cowherd, like all these people are talking about Todd Gurley. He's not getting the ball. Give him the ball 20 times. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you about that. It's very bizarre. I don't like it either. It's very weird.
Yeah, so like for me, I want to see, is this the Rams team that can handle the Seahawks, or is this the Seahawks? They're just gonna do what everybody else is doing to the Rams, and we'll find out tonight. And I could see it going either way. I really have no idea what's gonna go on. I know this is a prediction show, but I'm staying far away from this one betting wise, and
But that's two good Thursday matchups in a row, man.
Yeah.
Two great matchups, almost maybe even the game of the week on a Thursday, which is cool.
Oddly enough, I'm 3-0 so far, and I am picking the Rams, I guess. I am 3-0 so far in Thursday night games. I never bet them, though. Let's see. Okay, well, let's just start, man. You want to just get into the picks?
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, man. So Buffalo versus the Tennessee Titans is the first one. These are two defenses. I like both of these teams quite a bit. Tennessee is 2-2. Buffalo is 3-1. Got handed their first loss last week against New England. Put up a hell of a fight. Frankly, probably should have won the game. Josh Allen throws 3 interceptions, gets hurt. I think Barkley comes in, throws another one. Patriots had 4 interceptions, scored 16 points, 7 of which were on a blocked field or a punt attempt. So this Buffalo defense, Sean McDermott, what he's doing, very impressive. But Tennessee came into Atlanta. I thought Atlanta schematically matched up very well offensively to Tennessee. I thought Atlanta, with their pass-first kind of offense and everything, I thought they were going to give Tennessee fits. Tennessee dominated. Their defense dominated. I like both of these teams, but I see this as a low-scoring game. For that reason, Brad and I are both on the Buffalo Bills. Brad, why don't you talk about a little bit about? And by the way, Josh Allen is questionable. I tend to think he's going to play, but Matt Barkley, I don't know. So if Josh Allen gets deactivated, maybe that maybe we take that off our board. But with that said, Brad, what do you think about the game?
You know what? It's funny. I feel like this is the matchup of two teams that we dogged and didn't really give any time to in the offseason.
Let's not pay attention to that.
I did it.
No.
Yeah, well, I think it was a we thing, but I led that charge, I think, So, but you didn't fight it. And all of a sudden we have two teams that are way better than we thought, especially Buffalo. Listen, Buffalo, I mean, no one would argue that either New England or Kansas City is the best team in the league. And Buffalo took New England to the wire and lost because of special teams play. And that's something, man. Like that means something to me. And I don't care if they did it in Buffalo, oh, well, they were at home. That doesn't matter at all. Yeah. So, maybe they are way better. Maybe they're better than Seattle. Maybe the Bills are better than Green Bay. Look, I'm not saying they are, but I'm impressed.
Yeah, man, through the quarter polls, you got to be impressed, man. This defense is, as soon as Sean McDermott got there, and they were a pretty solid defensive group. I think it was, was it Rex Ryan before Sean McDermott? I know he was there. I don't remember if that was the exact succession there, but the defense was solid. McDermott got there. They got even better. They made the playoffs the first year. I can't even remember who was the quarterback. It might have been freaking Ryan Fitzpatrick for all I know. Yeah. I actually don't think it was, but it could have been. I don't know. But man, this defense is legit. Like, they're a legit top defense. Nobody puts them like you're always hearing about Chicago and Jacksonville. You're never hearing about Buffalo, but they're always up there. Like we're hearing about New England this year. Buffalo's defense is damn good. They're damn good.
Yeah, really good, really good. Yeah, we hear about Chicago's defense and New England's, and I mean maybe you put Buffalo right up in there.
I put Buffalo ahead of Jacksonville at this point. I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah,
and they're both. It's funny because they're both small market teams, but Jacksonville has Jalen Ramsey, and I guess they're kind of a louder defense in terms of out in the press and all that stuff. Buffalo is like a blue collar, we're just going to shut you down type defense. I like them. 3 points in this game is like 20 to me. I mean, it's like I just don't see either team. I think this is going to be a close game. I wrote down Tennessee 17, Buffalo 16, just because they're at home. But I'm telling you, like 3 points, I'll take Buffalo in that defense on 3 points, even with Matt Barkley starting probably. Devin Singletary might come back this week for Buffalo. Maybe, maybe not. The hamstring issue is still healing. Both of these teams, Brad, you're right, man. I like both of them. I actually am higher on Buffalo than I am on Tennessee at this point. I'm still not sold on Mariota. I think Josh Allen it will basically pass and ascend. I think he's about equal with Mariota now. I think he will ascend him by the end of the season, assuming he can stop diving forward and taking helmet-to-helmet shots in the head. Don't fall forward. Slide.
Yeah, do not fall forward. But didn't they say the other day that if you dive forward, you're giving yourself up still?
Well, I think
like
if
that
you
rule.
I don't think it's giving yourself up in terms of like personal foul. I think like if you dive forward, it's as good as a slide if nobody's around you. But I don't think it's that way with like roughing penalties or like personal fouls. If you fall forward, you can still get hit, If you fall forward and belly flop and nobody's around you, then you can't just like, kill the man with the ball type stuff, pile on. But yeah, I feel like if you're diving forward and it's a contested play, you can get hit. And that's what happened to Josh Allen. I'm sorry. That's not a dirty hit. That's a football play. Josh Allen needs to protect the franchise. He needs to protect his head. He needs to protect his body, man, because you're not going to be 23 forever,
It's so interesting that all these guys in those moments, they do like the exact opposite thing they should do.
Yeah, I know.
And you think, well, could it be that hard? But maybe it is, man, because maybe instinct takes over and nobody wants to be a punk. But Russell Wilson is the best I've ever seen it. Not ever. Does he ever take a hit?
Do you know who else is really good at that? Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is pretty good at that. Yeah. He's not as good as Russell is, but I know he better be, right? He better be. But anyway, that's enough for that one, I think.
Okay.
Let's move it on. Next game we have on the list here. Where are you? Chicago -4.5 visiting Oakland. Mitch Trubisky is out. Chase Daniel's probably going to be starting. 4.5 points. Brad and I are both on Oakland. Brad, do you want to talk a little bit about this game?
I think that the Bears will be better with a backup quarterback.
I know. The only thing that concerns me here is that Chase Daniels is playing. I think he's a more polished passer than Trubisky.
Look, I mean, we've never been a Trubisky guy. He just looks like he can only read half the field. He's never really showed me anything ever.
Yeah, right.
I mean, has he ever showed you anything? Has he ever showed anybody? Any of the talking heads? Has anyone ever said anything good about him? There's nothing to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's not fast. He's not special with the arm. He's not good before the snap.
Yeah.
So I think it's better for them to move on from the guy.
I think it's it's almost like the Chicago fans up here are like devoted to him. The fans are, because he probably legitimately is the best quarterback they've had in a couple of decades.
Well, I don't know. I mean, who says so?
Yeah,
why?
I don't know. Probably
is he 16 starts?
Is he better than Cutler? I mean,
I don't think he's better than Cutler.
From a talent perspective, no, but people in the locker room like him. I think that matters.
Okay, well, that matters, yeah. But I think Cutler underperformed. I think he never lived up to his talent. Okay, yeah. So maybe they can't.
I'm just saying, like they just are looking for a quarterback. It's like Washington in a way. They're just looking for a quarterback, looking for an answer there. They just want something to root for. But I'm with you, man.
That I understand, but that doesn't mean he's better than any of the rest of the guys that have come through in the past 15 years. I think he's just another one.
And Chase Daniels has been around forever. I think he spent some time backing up in Kansas City, so long time in the system. I could be wrong on that. I might be confusing with somebody else, but I'm pretty sure. And I believe he came in the league with New Orleans and might have spent some time with Sean Payton. Well coached throughout his career, I do know that. Was good in college, just never really got it going in the NFL. Smaller guy, but to your point, Brad, I think he can probably execute this passing attack better, so it actually concerns me a little bit. This game. Now, let me talk a little bit about Oakland. Look, this Chicago defense is legit. It's going to be hard. I think Oakland, assuming he plays Josh Jacobs, they will just slam his head against that line of scrimmage, try to get some points or some yardage. Terrell Williams, J.J. Nelson should be back, hopefully. I like what they're doing with the tight ends, Moreau, and, of course, Waller. This team can move. They've come out 3 out of the 4 games on fire. Gruden has them going. Gruden also played Denver, who's similar schematically in the opening week of the season, had no problem. I think Oakland's going to utilize a short passing game with the tight ends. I think they're going to involve Jalen Richard a little bit more this week. I think they'll have an answer, and unlike Washington, they are not a sieve in the secondary. They're better than advertised, even with Vontaze Burfict out. Chicago, it's gonna be tough sledding for them. 4.5 is a lot for me, so I'm taking Oakland, and that's my story.
4.5 is a lot. The line actually surprises me.
Yeah, that's a big one. I thought that's
really
a field goal
surprises
at least.
me.
So that means on a neutral field, that's 7. That's 7.5, right? Because Oakland's getting that 3-point bonus for the home team. The mythological 3-point bonus. Let's move it on, Brad. We have New England next one on the list. I convinced you of this just before the podcast. New England -16 at Washington. I have now convinced you. Come over to the dark side. We're taking New England. I'm sorry.
It's a big line, but okay, whatever.
Yeah, it's a big line, but I truly don't understand how Washington scores a single touchdown in this game.
Well, they may not do that, will they? Because apparently the Patriots have only given up 1 touchdown all year. So stands
and they
to
played
reason,
decent teams. Decent. More decent than Washington.
Well, if you move Buffalo into the decent category, yes. Mm-hmm. But they beat Miami, okay, and
Pittsburgh.
they beat
with Roethlisberger.
All right, and they beat the crap out of them. So all right, I'll give you that. I'll give you that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Man, this team, I think as we've said on Get Paid and everything, I think this team is the best Patriots team defense in a while. This passing attack, I'm sorry, they don't need Antonio Brown. They don't even remember his name. They don't know his zip code. They don't know what color his mustache is at this point.
Well, do they need anybody?
No.
I mean, let's be honest. Look, they're better than last year, right? Mm-hmm. And the best tight end for the past 10 years in the league retired. They lost one of the best players of all time. Yeah. And he wasn't out of his prime. He was still the man. He had a few years left in his prime.
He sure did.
And they're better, like I'm sorry, if that happens to another team, it's lights out, game over for a good 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain. I was thinking about this. I can't remember if I was talking about this with you, if it was one of the other many segments I do for Underdog TV. Once again, youtube.com/theunderdog. I was looking at these teams, and there are certain teams that I would consider to have programs. And when I say this, I almost look at it like college athletics. Like Alabama has a program. If they lose their quarterback, they'll just plug another one in there and be fine. And quarterback's an extreme example, but basically any other position. Okay, I'm looking through. I think the Chargers are kind of a program. Outside of Phillip Rivers, they lose everybody on their offensive skill level, and they still put up 30 points. I think Philadelphia is kind of like that, although I would like a stronger running game. There's just not many teams. Yeah. Maybe Baltimore's a little like that, but there are very few teams that I can think like, oh, if they lose this person, they're going to be fine. They're still going to be a winning team. I will say this, though. If Tom Brady were to go down with injury, that Stidham or whoever they got a backup quarterback, give me a break. Give me a break.
All right. Let's say Tom Brady went out for 4 games.
Yeah, no problem. They go 0-4 and still win the Super Bowl.
No, would it surprise you if they went 2-2?
No, they would. They would.
They would go 2-2. Yeah. Right?
They win 6-3 twice.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, for sure. Right.
4-3.
Yeah, 4-3. Whatever it takes.
Yeah. Oh my
whatever it takes.
8-7. Anyway, back to the Patriots. I just don't see Dwayne Haskins might be the starting quarterback there this weekend. We'll see how that goes. I don't care. Case Keenum is definitely the better quarterback. I think that's pretty obvious. But Dwayne Haskins, as inaccurate and as raw as he is, going against the best defense that the best coach of all time has had in decades, it's going to be ugly. I think New England can put up 50 points in this game. I don't see Washington get to 10. So I just don't see it. I'm heavy on New England. I love this bet. New England broke my heart against the Jets a couple weeks ago, and they broke my heart against the Bills last week because Gostkowski can't hit a freaking extra point, and because the backup quarterback threw pick six, and because the punter got a punt block. Fluky things. I'm on New England. I have not found a line this year yet for New England that I have not liked. It takes a fluke to lose, so I'm just going to keep going and plugging away with New England. Let me tell you this: if Washington scores more than 10, I'll be shocked.
Right.
I'll be shocked.
Right. Yeah, I would be as well.
For
sure.
And their only good cornerback, Norris, is on the injury report. He's probably going to play, but oh gosh, it's going to be brutal. They might put their JV team in there and put up 50. Really,
I thought that's what they were doing.
Yeah, I know.
Hey, what happened to Adrian Peterson?
He's got no line blocking. I mean, I think he's okay. He's a little older, but he's got no offensive line.
I mean, I haven't heard his name once this year. I really have not, and I almost forgot he was still on their team.
Yeah, dude. He's Darius Geis should be the starter there, but I think he tore his meniscus or something, so he's on, I think, probably short-term IR. Chris Thompson, I think, is the if you have balls, if you have like balls of steel and you want to play daily fantasy from Washington, you can play McLaurin if he's back and Chris Thompson. But I truly don't believe they score a single touchdown this game. My analytics say it, and I say it, and my eyes say it.
Yeah, I think your eyes are right.
Yeah. Let's move it on, Brad. We have one near and dear to your heart. We have Green Bay plus 3.5 at Dallas. You and I are both on Green Bay.
Yeah, I think Aaron plays really well in Dallas. He just does, man, and I can't explain it. I don't know why. Devontae Adams is out. That's not good.
No,
it's just not good. And I say that because when he went out late against Philly, that's when they couldn't get a yard on fourth down, and that's when they started to struggle a little bit. So, but still, the 3.5 points, I like Green Bay for sure. I think they can manage.
Yeah, I think this is an upset. An upset candidate. I think it's a close one for Green Bay. I do think Green Bay right now is the slightly. Gosh, I don't know. I'd equate the teams on a field, and you can see this. I mean, the odds makers say the same thing. On a neutral field, this would basically be a half-point game in Dallas's favor. I could go either way on that, but I'm not overreacting. I want to repeat this because I know we said this earlier, Brad, earlier in the week. I'm not overreacting to that New Orleans game. Sometimes the defense, sometimes the defense will just, sometimes the defense earns a victory, and the defensive line. How many times in the last two seasons where you can say, oh yeah, the defensive line definitely outplayed Dallas's offensive line? That hardly, and that's what happened. You had a couple bad fumbles. I'm not, throwing shade at Dak Prescott. I think this is still a really good team. I think actually in my power rankings, I have them 6 this week, and I have Green Bay 5. So I have Green Bay slightly higher ranked. Like you, I agree that Aaron Rodgers plays really well in Dallas. Devontae Adams being out concerns me, but I think this is going to be kind of a moderate scoring game, like, low 20s, mid 20s, something like that for both teams. I think it's going to be close down to the wire. And I think, like you said before we started recording this podcast, that extra half point is a difference maker.
Sure. If it was 2.5, we'd probably go the other way.
Yeah. Yep. It's close.
Possibly. Yeah.
Close. Okay. Next one. We got 2 games left here. Cleveland, Monday Night Football at San Francisco. Cleveland is getting 3.5 points. Brad, you and I both picked San Francisco.
Yeah, I would have guessed that the line would be San Francisco by 5 or 5.5. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not about to drink the Kool-Aid on Cleveland. And I was telling Sean before the podcast started that I think, or maybe it was during the podcast. Maybe. Am I repeating myself? I don't know.
No, not this one. It would probably have been in the gate paid one. So I think we're all right.
Okay. So anyways, I think what we saw was a glimpse of what Cleveland is capable of. They played really well, man. I thought. What's his name there?
Chubb.
Baker. Chubb.
Yeah.
Chubb and Baker. It was a beatdown, and I think they are capable of that, but not every week. So I think that they take a step back like a cha-cha.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And the thing is, I've been pounding the drum all season. Run the ball, run the offense in Cleveland through Chubb. Don't run it through Baker and OBJ. Run it through Chubb. Then things will open up for Baker and OBJ. I like Cleveland. They have the talent. Nobody disputes that. But what's the weakness of this team? It's the offensive line. One of the strengths of San Francisco is their incredible defensive line. They're playing fantastic. I think even if Cleveland is disciplined enough to run with Chubb, I think San Francisco will be able to shut him down early, which means I think Kitchens won't be disciplined enough to stay with Chubb. I think that this will turn into an OBJ throw into Beckham and throw into Landry kind of display, and that plays into San Francisco's hands. They want to use that defensive line and that pass rush to create poor throws, rushed throws, and turnovers. And I think this is a recipe for disaster. Cleveland comes out, they're puffing their chest for taking care of Baltimore. Well, you and I watched that game, Brad, and Cleveland earned that victory, but Baltimore was just kind of it's like they're a fighter that took a huge headshot in the first round and just couldn't get it going.
Sure.
Their lines, the Cleveland lines on both sides of the ball dominated early, and they could never right the ship. And
they were gaining, they were getting back into it. They're,
Yeah.
it started to have that feel that the inertia was going to switch sides and momentum was building. And then Chubb broke that one, and it's like, right? Yeah. I mean, he just, they were coming back. It was a defensive moment, and he just destroyed them. He cut the legs out of the whole thing. So that'll do it, and that's just how it went, man. And that probably destroyed them a bit. So,
yeah. It's going to be interesting. Baltimore, we actually removed this game because it's one of the games we agreed on. We took Baltimore to bounce back against Pittsburgh. We took that off of our board. Still think that could happen. Pittsburgh, to me, it's like I don't know what this offensive coordinator for Pittsburgh is going to do. Is he going to try to run that short pass game, run the ball with Samuels and Connor, assuming he plays? I don't know if he can do that 2 games in a row. I don't know if he's willing to do that 2 games in a row. So I don't know. I mean, if he does, I think Pittsburgh can win that game. So anyway, it's just too much. And then the home division underdog thing, I don't like that either. But back to San Francisco, they can run the ball. I think they will have success running the ball against Cleveland's defensive line. Although I do think Cleveland's defensive line is very good. I think Garoppolo will pick his spots. I think these rookie receivers that they have. I think finally Jalen Hurd is going to be back in. Hopefully, it's going to be a different San Francisco team. If you're not a San Francisco 49er fan, if you haven't been following and watching them, I think it's going to be different from what you think you're going to see. Cleveland, I think they're ready to take a step back after puffing their chests out. But let me say this. I'm confident in the bet. I like the bet. But if Cleveland comes out and wins this game by 10, I really wouldn't be shocked. And if they do that, it'll be because Nick Chubb ran for another 25 and 150 or something like that,
Right.
So we'll see, man. So, I think Cleveland will go as Chubb goes, both in this game and for the rest of the season. I just think San Francisco has the tools to stop them. All right,
sure,
Brad.
Me too.
We do have a bonus game, which we'll talk about in a bit. But the last official game on our list in the Pick Six, Jacksonville plus 3.5 at Carolina. Brad, you and I are on Jacksonville. You want to talk about that one?
Yeah, hasn't the backup for Carolina gone 2-0? Am I correct
Allen.
In that one?
Kyle
Allen, yeah. So I feel like there's a lot of guys named Kyle Allen in the league. I like the guy for Buffalo is named Kyle Allen.
There's so many Devontaes with different spellings. It drives me crazy when I'm trying to put out the rankings and all that stuff. But anyway, yeah.
I just think he's due for a loss, man. And I think I like Jacksonville, dude. I like this.
Gardner.
I like the excitement they have at quarterback. And, jeez. What's the deal with the cornerback there, Jalen Ramsey?
Oh, he's still not practicing. He's going to be questionable this week. He just wants to be traded, and he's milking a back injury. Unless he's got the scoliosis, he's just not going to play, most likely. But Jacksonville says they have no plans to play him or trade him, I should say. If he plays, this defense is better. Herndon, he was picked on by Denver, and rightfully so, because who you're going to pick on in that defense. But I thought he played actually okay. Kyle Allen, he's doing what Mason Rudolph did last week. He's just throwing the ball, short. Brad, I did finally catch up on all the games. My goodness, it took me forever, but I got there. He's throwing the ball short. He's throwing the ball to Christian McCaffrey. Why wouldn't you? He's taking some shots to the tight ends, short wide receiver screens, and all that stuff. But he's not throwing for long yardage. Jacksonville, I think this defense has the opportunity, even without Jalen Ramsey, to shut down Carolina. And that Gardner Minshew, man, he can complete passes downfield. He's a gamer, man. I like this guy a lot.
Yeah, he's playing well. It's a small sample size,
Yeah.
but yeah, he's playing well. He seems to have he has a way about him that people really take to,
Hmm.
and it looks like he has a fun style of play. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for them, and I'm on board.
Yeah, he reminds me of honestly, he reminds me a little bit of Baker Mayfield. I should say this: he reminds me a lot of Baker Mayfield outside of the personality. I know
Right,
Baker
right.
Mayfield's teammates love him and all that stuff, but Baker can be polarizing elsewhere. I think everybody else tends to like him. Gardner Minshew, I'm talking about. Whereas Cleveland's like taking a bullet for Baker Mayfield across the city, but it's like everybody likes to see this Gardner Minshew. So I like him, man. I hated that Uncle Rico skit on ESPN as we watched. I detailed that, Brad. You'll be proud of me. I detailed this in painstaking detail on the Functional Sportsaholic in a segment labeled "Why ESPN Sucks." By the time people are watching this podcast on YouTube, there should be another video, so check that out. But holy crap, that was the worst thing I've ever
That
seen on TV.
was the worst thing I had ever seen. And for the viewers that don't know, we watched that together.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean was in the next room, and I said, "Dude, you would not believe what I'm watching. It's the most terrible thing I've ever seen." And he said, "I have to know." And we both witnessed. He came over. We both witnessed it like a train wreck. We rewinded the DVR. It was terrible.
I have to know.
It was like I felt it. Like I felt embarrassed for the whole thing.
Everything.
Like when you just when you watch somebody like trip down the stairs at a wedding or something, and you're just like totally embarrassed, for them. The whole thing made me feel so gross. I couldn't believe it. So
Man.
I'm sure it's on YouTube. So if anyone hasn't seen it and you're ready to feel a little disgusting,
Oh my gosh, it's
go
just
check it out.
You needed a shower after it, or I needed a shower after it, I should say. So yeah, the backstory to that too is I was in the next room trying to take a nap because Brad and I were live this week working on some podcast stuff. So I was in Miami. I flew down. For those who don't know, I live in Chicago. So I flew down and I got to Fort Lauderdale and we hung out. We had a good time. We had some drinks and everything, with a big group of people. And I got back to my hotel room at like 3:30 in the morning. And then I was, I had maybe a couple too many drinks. So I had a hotel burger. The burger was more expensive than the hotel room, if you can believe it. And then I crashed probably about 4, but then you had a work thing, so we had to go. Anyway, so I got like 2 or 3 hours sleep. I was dying. And I was just about to fall asleep in the next room, and you're like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. And I woke up, and I was like, you're right, I have to experience this. And I never went to bed that day. I never took the nap because it was so bad that I could not sleep for fear of reliving it in my dreams, my nightmares. There's no way. So anyway, Jacksonville. That was so bad. It was
So bad. So bad.
I broke
bad.
the entire video down, including Gardner Minshew not even having a freaking mustache.
That's the whole bit. The whole bit is that he has a mustache like Uncle Rico. And when they did it, he didn't have one.
He had a beard.
Once you grow other hair, you cease to have a mustache. The same hair exists, but the addition of the other hair turns it into a beard. Right? Everybody knows that.
ESPN, leave it to them to screw up facial hair.
Oh my God. That was...
Anyway, let's move it. Here's the bonus game. This is the game that we disagree. We still disagree on this, but I'm thinking and leaning towards coming back over there if some things happen. So it's Indianapolis plus 11 visiting Kansas City. I'm on Indianapolis. Brad, you're on Kansas City. Let me just start. I'm on Indianapolis. I like Indianapolis. We were talking a little bit about programs and all that stuff. I think Indianapolis is installing that kind of program. I like Jacoby Brissett. I like this team. I like this offensive line. I like the defense that they're putting together. I like the coaching staff. I love the coaching staff, in fact. But if Marlon Mack and T.Y. Hilton can't play, and I'll even say this, if one of them can't play, they cannot cover the spread. I think it's a little close if Indianapolis is completely healthy. We'll see what happens later in the week. If either T.Y. Hilton or Marlon Mack is out, I'm on Kansas City on your side, Brad. But do you want to talk about why you're on Kansas City regardless?
I think, they didn't play very well, and I'd almost treat it like a loss, like a really awesome team lost one. They played, they didn't look like themselves, even though they still scored 30-something, right, and won. I think they bounced back, and I think they have an amazing day. That's the theory.
And you're right. I mean, this is an offense as we watched, because we watched this game, the Kansas City Detroit game live. It didn't look like Patrick Mahomes ever got off the bus. The offense still put up 27 points. They put up 34 total. Legit, man. They're a legit team. 30 or 31 other players, as I said earlier in the week, would have lost that game, or not players, but teams. Mm-hmm. With the exception of maybe New England's, most of those teams would lose that game, and Kansas City won it. They're serious, and that's not a season. They might get Tyreek Hill back this week.
Oh,
yeah, he's
right,
practicing. Damian Williams might come back too, the best of their running backs in my opinion. So Kansas City actually might be back to full strength. So it's out there. I'm going to be watching that injury report closely, and Brad and I always bet on these games. So Brad and I will be texting, and I'll add this to our picks, and I'll come over as well. Brad, I'm going to do – I don't know if you have any teasers. I do have one suggestion to tease down a game, if possible, and then apply them to other ways or whatever. But let's just talk about daily fantasy. I'm talking DraftKings numbers at this point. Here are my 6 for you. I'll give you 1 quarterback, 2 running backs and receivers, and 1 tight end. Quarterback, I feel a little dirty saying this, but Andy Dalton has always been one of my favorite daily fantasy quarterbacks. He's always cheap because nobody likes him. He's at $5,700. I know John Ross is hurt, but they're playing Arizona, who gives up a ton of passing yards. I do think that if John Ross is hurt, Arizona's going to lock down Tyler Boyd. What does that mean? I think, oh my gosh, we'll see if Zach Taylor. I've given up on Zach Taylor, the head coach there, but I think that means Joe Mixon should get some receptions out of the backfield. You would think. Gio Bernard, maybe. Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, his play calling is bad. But also, I think the tight ends there, Uzomah and Tyler Eifert, will do well. My next pick at running back, Brad, is actually Pollard, backup running back for Dallas at 4,400. I think he's going to be utilized a little bit more in the screen game this week against a tough Green Bay defense, against a fast Green Bay defense. I do think they'll introduce him a little bit more. That's what my analytics are telling me anyway, and I listen to the computer. Next one on my list is James White, running back, New England, $5,000. I mentioned New England might put up 5,000 or 5,000 points, 50 points. Might be 5,000 by the time they're done with them. I'm high on any New England Patriot, including their receivers, but James White, I like him at running back. Wide receiver Cole Beasley, aspiring rap artist and slot receiver for the Buffalo Bills. 4,600. I think Buffalo playing Tennessee, they're gonna have to work that that short game, that intermediate game. A lot of wide receiver screens. Cole Beasley's gotten a ton of targets, ton of receptions the last 2 weeks. He's used how I think they will use him, especially if Matt Barkley's in there. And I do think that Cole Beasley gets into the end zone for Buffalo this week against Tennessee. Wide receiver Allen Robinson for Chicago. We talked about in this podcast how Chase Daniels is going to be playing. It might be Chase Daniels again. Chase Daniel. No, but seriously, Allen Robinson, $5,600. I think he gets in the end zone this week, regardless of who's throwing the ball. I like it even more if old Chase is back there playing, slinging the rock. And then last one on the list here, my 6th, the tight end. Again, I'm going to stick with Cincinnati there because John Ross is hurt. You're looking at basically Auden Tate to get some targets, and you're looking at Uzomah and Eifert. I like Eifert in the red zone. I think he'll get in the end zone this week. So I like him as a daily fantasy sleeper. Brad, any teases you like there?
Rooney. I hesitate to pick the ones that we've already gone through.
Yeah, right.
Let
me list the ones that you picked that we didn't agree on. You were on Seattle. You were on Cincinnati against Arizona. The Giants. Minnesota was -6 against the Giants. You were on the Giants.
Well, here's the thing: is I don't love any of the lines this week, aside from the ones that you and I took together. To be honest, that none of them do it for me at all. Even with teasers, usually a few games jump out at me. I don't dig these at all, man. Not any, except for the ones that we took, and that's too easy. That's a cop out.
Yeah, sure. Then, damn it, that's a podcast, Brad. That's a podcast. Let's just call it there. Let's make some damn money because I think we were 1-5 last week.
Yeah,
That was a
let's
bad
do
week.
it. Here we go. It's a good week. We're flipping a script.
Yeah, I mean we're pretty fine. I was actually ran the numbers when I got back. How we were doing the season. We're both thanks to last week. We're both under 500, which is no good, no bueno. But I usually start the year a little slow. What really pissed me off is I'm in the Westgate, Brad. I'm in the Westgate contest, and I started 7-3 the first 2 weeks, which I never do. I'm always fighting those first 2 weeks, and then I get better and better and better as I do from year to year. And that's been, because I've been tracking this stuff for years. And, I usually get better from week 4 to whatever. So I was really excited going in, and I felt really confident. And then just like we watched it all unfold, there was too much negative energy in that room watching the games with you. So I can't watch the games with you anymore, Brad, because you're costing me money. All you and your negativity costing me money. I got to get the chi away.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, I got to rearrange my furniture. I got to take showers. I got to light incense and sage and whatnot.
I know. Hey, you're just another one on the list that can't do stuff with me. I refuse to do this with you anymore, Brad. Okay.
Yep, I've heard that before. I get it.
Yeah, I respect.
No, Brad, let me explain. No. I get it. I've heard it before. No, actually, it was so much fun on Sunday. We're laughing our ass off.
It was great.
Nonstop.
It was really great.
I actually had a little bit of a headache because I was laughing so much. It wasn't the whiskey.
It was really awesome. And then the 8 pieces of pizza and the
didn't help. And the 4 donuts or whatever.
The cheesy breadsticks and the donuts. What's wrong with us? Can't we just be normal people when we get together? I mean, what?
Whiskey on Saturday, and then the worst diet in the world. I'm still trying to sweat out all that salt I took in on Sunday. It's Thursday
I'm still feeling it with you, buddy.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, hey, everybody out there, thanks for listening. Hopefully watching. Once again, reminder, we are on Underdog TV. Go to youtube.com/theunderdog. If you're watching on Underdog, please subscribe to our network. You can see the button or the icon on the lower right-hand side, the red button. On the upper left-hand side, you have the logo. And then in the upper right-hand side, you also have playlists. Play a couple of videos, subscribe, help us grow our channel, help us add some content so we can make fun of some more stuff and hopefully start winning some games. For everybody else out there, play some daily fantasy, make some bets, get paid.